Everybody, Nicholas JMV, and welcome to video number 2 on graphing sine and cosine translations. In video 1, we shifted a graph vertically by 2 units. In this example, we're working with a cosine function, and it looks like we're going to be shifting that graph down d units. So if you haven't watched the first video on graphing sine and cosine, please check it out. We are making some assumptions here that you already have seen sine and cosine graphs. So let's go ahead and get started. First, you want to identify the key values here. So here's my A value with 3, here's my B value, and here is my D value. So the D value is what we're talking about here in this video. So I always identify the amplitude first. If the D value is 0, the amplitude will actually be your maximum and minimum values, but that's not the case here. If you want to think about that, the new maximum is going to be your amplitude minus your D value, which in this case is -1, so -1. So your maximum is going to be 2, your minimum is going to be -3 minus 1, which would now be -4, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So our amplitude is 3. We found our max and min, but we can get that from the graph later on. Our period here is going to change. We have 2 pi divided by our B value. Our B value in this case is 4, so 2/4 is pi over 2. And finally, that midline is going to be y equals, it's -1 there, right? It's a horizontal line. So that tells us that our graph's getting shifted down 1 unit. Okay, so let's go ahead and find our tick marks. Remember, I break our graph into equal pieces here. We always start at 0, so I need 4 equal pieces to get the 5 key points I need. With cosine, we always start at a maximum. Then we go to the minimum. Then we go to the 0. Then back to the, I messed that up, sorry. So we go max, 0, minimum, 0, and max. Those are our key points. The 5 key points, and now they're all going to be shifted. They're going to all be shifted down 1 unit, okay? So I use that in parentheses there so I don't have to plug in all these tick mark values that I'm going to find here in a minute. And our tick mark value, our last one, remember, is our period value. We want these to be in fourths. So pi over 2, take half of pi over 2, you get pi over 4. And then pi over 8 is this, right? Broke it up into 4 equal pieces, so it's an eighth, an eighth, an eighth, so this is 3 pi over 8. And we can do the same thing on the other side here. Just make them negative pi over 2. -3 pi over 8. Negative pi over 4, and negative pi over 8. And then I'm going to actually skip a line here, because I want some space because of my radians there. So I'm going to make that -1. So then this is -2. So this is 2, and then that's 3. Okay, I think we can get up here. Looks like we might not be able to get the other one, so let's actually just make those 1s again. Let's go ahead and make those 1s. That's okay. Something I changed before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thought I could get it, but I couldn't. +5 there. All right, so let's go ahead and graph this. So remember, our amplitude is 3. Normally that's your max and min, but it's not going to be this in this case. So let's go ahead. We're actually going to shift the graph down. So there's our value for D, -1. Shifts our graph down 1 unit. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the maximum value. This is a cosine value, so normally I'd be at 3. Right? But my maximum now is shifted down. So if I was at 3 normally and I shift it down 1, it's at a 2. So there's our max right there. So max, 0. So remember, my new line right there, my new red line, my new D value, that's where the 0 is going to be. Okay? So my minimum, so now I go down and I count 1, 2, 3 down from that midline. That's the amplitude, that distance, 3. Back up to our 0, and back up to our max. Remember, the zeros are not technically zeros. I just used that. They're down. They've all been shifted from the real 0 down 1 unit. So I have this nice graph. Here is 1 period of my cosine function. So I graph 2. So I go down to my 0, then to my minimum, then back to my 0, and then back to my max. And here is my other period. One more cycle of this graph. And let's kind of just quickly talk about that amplitude. So there's that midline in red. Count that distance, should be 3. Count that distance, it should be 3. That distance is 3, right? Even these distances are 3. So you want to make sure, the amplitude is the distance from the midline. Now that distance would be your max and min if your midline was 0, if there was no shift. So that does it for graphing sine and cosine with vertical translations. If you have any questions or comments, please type them below. Please think about subscribing to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notifications. This is Nicholas JMV, and we will see you next time.